Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us are the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross and sports journalist and broadcaster Tusdiq Din. Let's quickly run through the Back Pages. Yeah, one story in town really. Pep's a blue deal. The Guardiola contract extension title is definitely going to be a cliffhanger. Erling Haaland pictured in some evocative images there. Bruno up and running for Ruben Amorim, and no drug testing for refs. Mail back page, Pep's new deal, plain and simple, and then heartache for Britain as Bolton blows it. That's the Billie Jean Cup tennis story. In the Express, Pep agrees new deal. It's pain in Spain as Britain blow chance of glory. Again, that's the tennis covered at the top of the page there. The Times has Guardiola expected to sign a City deal, while they say that FIFA's been accused of breaking their own rules. A Starback page says Pep up for staying, and match of the Dre, which again I think is a reference to Erling Haaland's commercial shots. Some back page, chasing shadows, is a report about what Ruben Amorim has apparently said about Manchester United, and clinging on to Pep, the Manchester City story, while Dubois won't pull punches. Apparently new heavyweight world champion Daniel Dubois wants Jake Paul next. The Telegraph front page of the sports supplement, Guardiola close to City deal, and then broken Britain, the tennis story. Hi, back page. What a brilliant night for Wales. Cullen's double delight as they top their Nations League group. Homophobic abuse following pregnancy news branded unacceptable and crazy. Metro back page, Salah out, Anthony in. That was apparently a previous conversation at Liverpool. Don't worry, Liverpool fans. Brit heartbreak as final hope snuffed out again for tennis. OK, John, let's come to you. Crossy, Pep's a blue deal, the headline on the back page of the Mirror. John, how big for Manchester City and how big for the Premier League?
Massive, Teddy, on both fronts, in my view. Pep Guardiola has been an absolute genius for Manchester City. He's been sensational for the Premier League. You know, he's already on 4 in a row. Unprecedented success for Manchester City. I think he's a genius, an absolute coaching genius. He's innovative. He's imaginative. He's brilliant. He delivers sensational football. He comes up with new tactics. He comes up with new formation styles. He improves players. I just think he's been sensational for the Premier League. Let's not kid ourselves here. Manchester City fans will be celebrating this long into the night. Look, I do think we've probably been expecting it for a while. I do think that kind of did he toy with England a little bit and sort of, you know, maybe accept the call and think, oh, you know, I might be interested in international management. I'm not sure how far that kind of went. But I tell you what, it's been long in the offing that he might sign a 12-month extension. And I do think, you know, Sam Lee wrote this in The Athletic earlier, didn't he? Basically saying that he's agreed a 1-year extension with a further 1-year option. So it might not just be 12 months, but it might be 2 years, which I have to say, I think if you're a City fan, you'd absolutely love it because he guarantees success and he's just been fantastic for Manchester City. I think if you're their title rivals and teams that are aspiring for success in the Premier League, you're probably rolling your eyes because honestly, Pep Guardiola, let's not kid ourselves here, is the single biggest factor, I think, even bigger than sort of someone like Haaland or De Bruyne, as the single most important person at Manchester City, the single most important person behind their success and the way that they deliver sensational football and have taken the game, I think, to new heights in this country. Great news for City, and indeed, I would argue, you know, for the Premier League, but I imagine their rivals won't see it like that at all.
Yeah, they've been on the other end of an unprecedented period of dominance, haven't they? Let's go to the Mail, Tusdiq. Pep's new deal is the headline. Guardiola to make it a decade at City after contract U-turn. And they say that City will stretch to a decade after he surprised the Premier League champions by committing in principle to a new contract. So Jack Gaughan here, Tusdiq, reporting from his perspective, he thinks that City have been surprised that Guardiola signs. Are you at all? What's left to achieve for Pep Guardiola?
Pep clearly has some information that's become relevant because he had been dithering. You know, there was the off-field issues, 115 charges, which I know we'll get onto later, against them, which of course City deny. But it was in the pipeline, you have to say. And when you have a winning combination like Pep Guardiola at Man City, not only, as John said just there, enhanced the Premier League and enhanced world football, his disciples are enhancing the Premier League as well. Enzo Maresca being the latest one at Chelsea. We all know about Mikel Arteta, his nemesis now, but Arteta's friend as well. Mind-boggling what Guardiola's done. 100 points for City. Erling Haaland scoring for fun at top of the Premier League charts. And you have to say that Rodri is absent for the season. So 4 losses in a row in all competitions certainly are going to test Pep Guardiola and City. But, you know, they've been here before, they've done it before, and the motivation factor is the key. Ask any manager who's managed at any level, elite level or otherwise, and it's the sound of the voice, the sound of the individual. Are they listening? Are they hearing what's being said at them? And the frustrations are maybe in City's last 4 defeats, his message certainly wasn't getting across. But what he does as well, if we saw him over the many years, he'll go to an opposition player at the end of the match. I always remember Nathan Redmond when he was at Southampton, and I thought, look, is he trying to tap him up or something? But he's literally talking to them how good they are, how wonderful they are, even though, you know, like the game's finished and everything. He's just passionate about the game. He loves the game, and I think at his restaurant in Manchester, Tascatala, they certainly will be popping a few bottles at this news when it's finally announced.
Yeah, amazing. Only lasted 4 years in Barcelona, 3 years at Bayern, but it's the attraction of that Manchester weather, perhaps. Sir Crossy, let's go to the Times there. Guardiola expected to sign City deal. Lawton, Samuel and Hurst, all on this story for them, reporting Pep Guardiola is expected to extend his stay at Manchester City after recent talks with the club's hierarchy. People will maybe read things into the 115 charges, which we've said Manchester City deny. John, could that factor in, or is this just a pledge of allegiance, come what may, that perhaps he feels he owes the club after this near decade in charge?
Well, Teddy, you raise it. It's a very good point. It's a very interesting one, isn't it? And Guardiola's been so passionate about this, about sort of, you know, absolutely defending his club's honour, and said, you know, he's really sort of looked in the white of their eyes and he's looking forward to kind of, you know, the club clearing their names. He's convinced that they will do that. But I do also think there's, you know, something that makes me think that actually, you know, whatever happens next with City and those 115 charges, I think Guardiola wants to see the job through. And I think that basically, you know, I admire and respect him for doing that. You know, who knows? It will certainly, I think, be the most interesting and potentially controversial season in Premier League history, you know, with the Man City case coming up. City obviously deny those charges, and you know, as we say, sort of Guardiola has been quite clear on his support on that. And to me, this says even more about his kind of resolute belief within that case, and saying that we will clear our names, because I do not believe for a second, if he had any doubts, then that he would be putting pen to paper on this. So I think that he's backing, if you like, for City's case and for City's protestations and their sort of kind of claims of innocence, I think will only be, you know, supported by Guardiola's move. I do think the rest of the Premier League will be looking at it, because I do think that kind of people have been thinking, well, will he use this kind of the end of this contract as a convenient way out? Not likely, because I think that Guardiola is a man of his own. He certainly knows his own mind. He will never follow the expected curve, will he? And so I do respect that. But I think what has surprised me, Teddy, is the 2-year element in this. It's not just a quick fix. It's basically saying, I'm hanging around for a bit long, because honestly, the drain on these guys, you know, they put themselves through 24/7, and there's no one more intense than Guardiola in the Premier League kind of coaching circles. And for him then to kind of carry on, take himself up to a decade in charge, having had all this in success, you know, controversy sometimes off the field as well to deal with. I think the guy is just sensational, absolutely incredible manager, just an absolute, you know, just a sensational manager. We can talk all day about the kind of the greats, the absolute all-time greats. He has to be right up there with kind of Fergie, Mourinho, Wenger. He absolutely must be. He's just a groundbreaking, sensational manager in my view.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree. Tusdiq, Star back page, Pep up for staying. And John there mentions that legacy and how it compares maybe to Sir Alex Ferguson. Tusdiq, do you think, and it's mentioned in Jack Gaughan's piece in the Mail actually, that City are cognizant of what's gone wrong at Manchester United since Ferguson left? And in Gaughan's piece there, they've likened it to the fact that David Gill also stepped down the same summer as chief executive. Cheeky Bagiristan is leaving Manchester City. Do you think that gave extra impetus to the club to keep Guardiola?
Well, definitely, if you absolutely look at the situation with what happened at Manchester United before the appointment of Amorim, I think they're up to their seventh full-time manager. Of course, we've had some high-profile individuals in that, but they started off really well, certainly with Manchester United regarding David Moyes' appointment. And Rio Ferdinand alluded to the book he was reading once, From Good to Great, he said, and that kind of summed up his view of what David Moyes was about. But it's a harder thing to have the continuation, and we saw that with the numbers. And obviously, we've seen it can be turned on its head because Arne Slot stepped in at Liverpool after Jurgen Klopp's successful reign there, and he seemed to be shown to be seamless transition. But that's not the case, and Manchester City in no way wanted to be in that position because the one they wanted to go in there was rumoured to be Amorim. So obviously he's gone across the city to the red half, so that's not going to happen. So the 2-year deal might be, look, we've got unfinished business here. His excellent communication skills, the Abu Dhabi owners, Haldun Al-Mubarak and Sheikh Mansour, they absolutely love what he's doing for the club. And, years ago, I think the once chief executive Gary Cook said, Man City will one day be the biggest club in the world. He was proven correct. And I actually bumped into him once at one of these forums and I told him so. He's now at Birmingham City. He's a Birmingham City fan. But he must be sitting back thinking, look, everything he envisioned at Man City has been proven to be true. And certainly Guardiola in keeping if to be expected, the announcement will come in and keeping to his word, really, because he's loyal to his people, he's loyal to his staff, and now players can actually look to join the club because they won't say, well, what will you be doing? Because he's staying. Now, that is good for Man City, good for the Premier League, not so good for the rivals, but it makes for interesting times because City now will certainly know the way forward, and it's certainly with Guardiola in their corner.
Yep, certainty, a bit of stability at Manchester City, but as Tusdiq says, John, not such luck at Manchester United, but hope springs eternal. Back page of the Sun. Let's go to Ruben Amorim. Chasing shadows is the headline. This is exclusive by Richard Moriarty. Ruben Amorim says Manchester United have failed because they played in Sir Alex Ferguson's shadow, not his spirit. John, before you elaborate on this story, just give us an insight behind the corridors of power in the paper world tonight, because there was a lot of plans for papers to lead with Amorim before the Guardiola news broke, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Look, I'll be perfectly honest. These sort of kind of few days, sometimes after an England international break, can be difficult before the restart of the Premier League. Sometimes it will throw up an amazing story and sort of controversies and great talking points. Sometimes it's a quieter day. I think today was a bit of a quieter day, to be honest, until that Guardiola story. So I do think a lot of it, including my own, would have splashed on a United story of some sort. And actually, this is an interesting one. Actually, the Sun have stuck with it ahead of Guardiola. Richard Moriarty, as you say, Teddy, sort of kind of going away. So look, it's interesting. Actually, I always take my hat off to the guys in the office. I always have a lot of dialogue with them, and then kind of they've spun around the back pages very, very quickly, redesigned. I tip my hat off to the guy in charge tonight on our back page, Kevin Price, absolute master of his craft and headline writer. And I tell you what, he's done as a term. But the Sun have stuck with it. And basically, I think what Richard Moriarty is alluding to here is that it's sort of kind of United in the last few managers since Fergie have been sort of overwhelmed by Fergie's shadow, the shadow of Fergie's success, basically, and struggled to step out of it. And now they've really got to embrace that kind of fearless spirit and go for it. And basically that's what they've got to do, according to this story under Amorim. And that's the sort of message that he's going to put forward, or has put forward, to the players in the next few days. It's really interesting. I can't wait to see him at Ipswich on Sunday to see his first game in charge. Cannot wait to see it, because it's the different change. He's an exciting guy, produces good football. I've enjoyed watching his sporting teams in Europe playing good attacking football. It'll be a different style, 3-4-3. Let's see how Bruno Fernandes fits into that. But I think we've got exciting times ahead to United. And that, I think, is the message that, he is trying to put forward and sort of kind of sell to his players. Embrace it. Don't be scared of it.
Yeah, brilliant Super Sunday to come, isn't there? Ipswich against Manchester United. Moriarty reporting there that the players have been blown away by the Mourinho-esque confidence. So we shall see. We will now take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including the Eye, which looks at both a great night for Wales and the reaction to the homophobic abuse aimed at Sam Kerr and Christy Mewis over the news they're expecting a baby. Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight, and it's a welcome back to our guests, the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross and sports journalist and broadcaster Tusdiq Din. Let's go to the back page of the Eye. John, I'll come to you after a brilliant night for anyone associated with Wales. Cullen's double delight. Liam Cullen with 2. Swansea man sparks Wales to top tier of Nations League. How good has this been from Wales, and how impressed, John, have you been with Craig Bellamy?
Hugely, Teddy. I think it's been really, really good. I mean, let's not forget here. Let's remember what was happening on Saturday night. Turkey get a last-minute penalty, which basically would have secured victory and top spot, and basically, effectively, knocked Wales back into second place and guaranteed Turkey's top spot. They hit the outside of the post. Wales survive. Wales then record, having gone behind early on, record a magnificent victory tonight. Good goals, 4-1, hold their nerve. While meanwhile, Turkey lose their game against the Montenegro team who've taken their first points of the whole campaign. I mean, it's just remarkable. And also, I'd just like to point out what a good competition, again, that the Nations League is. I know it has its detractors, but look at that crowd, the atmosphere. It was rocking. It had something to play for Wales. I do think that Craig Bellamy has been fantastic. He's really, I think, made Wales much more solid, a unit, a togetherness there that he's drilled within the team. They never give up. I mean, his unbeaten start is something to be incredibly proud of. I do think he's drilled them. And then to get them back into that sort of kind of top elite group of teams, potentially easing their kind of path also in World Cup qualification. I honestly, I think he's done a tremendous job. But what I really like about Bellamy is he's just carried the fans with him. He knows exactly what the passion of the Welsh fans is and their support, how important that is. And they just believe. And then as I say, to come from behind, and then to go out such convincing winners, I think is something incredibly to be proud of.
Really welcome tonic, isn't it? Especially with the Wales rugby team struggling so much at the moment. Tusdiq, come to you now and stay on the back page of the Eye, but from a really uplifting story just below it, a really saddening story. Homophobic abuse following pregnancy news branded quote-unquote unacceptable and crazy. Andy Hampson reporting the Chelsea manager Sonia Bonpastor has condemned the unacceptable homophobic abuse directed at striker Sam Kerr following the news she and her partner are expecting a baby. Tusdiq, what does this story mean in terms of how we handle social media and how players handle it, how it can be regulated? Will it be regulated?
Well, the social media companies have got a lot to do in that. Clearly, that's evident. First of all, this is absolutely awful. This is something that we should be absolutely condemning. And the club, Chelsea, have come down very strongly condemning the actions of a few mindless individuals, we'd like to think, on social media. Certainly Sam Kerr and Kirsty Mewis, just wanted to share the joy that they felt as, soon-to-be parents. And like any parents, they obviously wanted to be proud of their forthcoming child, but obviously being high-profile professional footballers, one at Chelsea, one at West Ham, you just think that maybe this could have been, if you like, I wouldn't say predictable, but there are individuals out there, the keyboard warriors, who just absolutely will have no issue in turning up the rhetoric and be that racist or homophobic. Football is doing its best. Ultimately, it's the individuals and the people around the individuals are causing this nonsense to speak up and not, to call it out, because, it doesn't happen. And I remember speaking to, Sir Alex Ferdinand in the past regarding racism in football. And he said, look, taking the knee, what's it proved? Because he was still getting the abuse. Other people of colour were still getting abused in football. And, the same is through through true of homophobic chants, and it's utterly deplorable. We cannot accept that in this day and age, and people with diverse inclusion issues need to go on courses of diverse inclusion to say, look, we should celebrate difference. You're not going to agree with everything, but certainly football is doing its best to accommodate everyone, and certainly in this instance, Mewis and Kerr, deserved their privacy, if you like. But obviously, going on social media, they wanted to share that intimate moment, but we should respect that, and just hopefully learn from it.
Yeah, I wish Sam and Kirsty all the best, of course, with a baby to come, John. I suppose it's something we look at, isn't it? How athletes have to deal with this. How should they deal with it? Brennan Johnson came off social media, scored for Wales tonight, didn't he? Had a scintillating upturn in form. Millie Bright, Sam Kerr's Chelsea teammate, on Sky Sports News earlier today, saying that she wouldn't be on social media if she wasn't a footballer. How serious an issue, how big a consideration is it for players now?
Well, it must be, Teddy. I do think, and I do wonder, and I sympathise with that view, because I do think the negativity and the negative thoughts, particularly if you're trying to be in the zone, if you're trying to sort of kind of prepare mentally as well as physically for a game, I just don't understand sometimes why players would kind of want to engage in that negative thought process. But the flip side is that I do think that in so many ways, and this is why it's so sad, isn't it, to see kind of platforms, Twitter now obviously known as X, basically it has become so much more negative, and and people are sort of kind of switching to different platforms and so on. I think it's sad and a reflection, though, that the social media companies haven't stepped in to address it, and to, as Tusdiq rightly says there, that basically, there's been opportunities, there's been chances to address it, to try and make improvements, to try and clamp down on the kind of the hate and the, sexism, homophobia, whatever it might be. And their ignorance and their failure to do so, well, they deserve to kind of lose out, really. But I think what also is lost, though, on the flip side, is that, why was it invented in the first place? It's a way to engage with fans. And I think, why do they play football in the first place? It's for the fans, it's for the love of the game. And I think it's so sad that the genuine fan, though, loses out because of these mindless idiots. That's what upsets me, because players like this really enjoy meeting and seeing, engaging and being with sort of genuine fans and supporters. And you hate to see that lost, but that is what we will end up losing without a shadow of a doubt, because of these morons. Social media debate continues. Tusdiq, you've only got about half a minute, 30 seconds here, but on the back page of the Metro, just a story here that perhaps Manchester United fans wished had happened. Salah out, Anthony in. Just explain in around 20 seconds, if you can, what happened here.
Yeah, I had to look at the date to make sure it wasn't April the 1st, but apparently Jurgen Klopp absolutely was keen on bringing Anthony to Liverpool as a replacement for Mohamed Salah. His numbers, Salah's numbers now obviously dictate that it was a decision not made in the best interest of the club, because of what's happened since. Unfortunately, Martial has gone the way he has done, and Anthony, has gone the way he has done. He still fits in.
Lucky escape for United, I think. Thank you very much, gents. Pleasure to have you on the show tonight. If you missed any of it, a chance to see Backpage tonight at hour. Also available as a podcast. And next up, more on Pep Guardiola and that imminent deal at City.